Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, family. Welcome. Spend a little time with me. In fact, today is a good day and it's a special day for me, y'all. Today is my born day. And I was born at 5:10 a.m. in the morning. It's just amazing that I woke up at 5:07, you know? That go to show you how shit work. Anyways, how are you today? I'm sure y'all saw well, I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna save that for another video. So let me deal with what I came on here for in the first place. I heard this guy, and he was on donmartin.com. Okay, and I thought he said the most profound thing that everybody need to hear, especially if they not a descendant of enslavement. American descendant of slavery. Because chattel slavery, again, is different than any other kind of slavery. So, this guy says something that I thought was so profound that I think everybody ought to hear it. Okay? Check this out, fam.
Previous speech got taken down for some odd fucking reason, and that's all good, but I'm about to re-record it again because the truth needs to be out there, and we need to stop lying to ourselves and pretending we don't see the pattern when it's right fucking there. It's right there, and everybody knows it, but nobody wants to say it out loud. So, when a Latina gets angry, people call it spicy, sexy, es una tóxica, right? When a white woman gets angry, oh, poor Sally, oh my gosh, poor her. She's just having such a bad day. Oh my gosh, she must be going through so much. Oh my gosh, poor her. When a white man gets angry, he's stressed, he hit his breaking point, he's having a bad day, it's mental health. But when a black woman gets angry, she's ghetto, she's ratchet, she's loud, she's aggressive, she's masculine, she's too much. When a black man shows anger, hurt, frustration, grief, or pain, now he's violent, now he's dangerous, now he's a threat, now people clutch their bags, people get scared, people cross the street, now people reach for excuses to justify why they never wanted to understand him in the first place. And do not tell me it's about behavior, do not tell me it's about tone, do not tell me it's about how it's expressed, because the same emotions coming out of different bodies get labeled completely differently depending on the skin they're housed in. That is conditioning. That is not a coincidence, and that is not fair. Black pain is not allowed to be human pain in this society. It's only allowed to exist if it's quiet, palatable, digestible, and non-threatening to everybody else's comfort. The second it spills over, the second it raises its voice, the second it stops asking politely to be acknowledged, it gets criminalized, it gets demonized, and people want to talk about anger issues without ever talking about where that anger comes from. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about generations of trauma stacked on top of generations of trauma, stacked on top of generations of trauma, and then pretending the body, the nervous system, the psyche, and the soul are not keeping score. You don't get to enslave people, lynch people, beat people, rape people, eat people, segregate people, lock people out of resources, destabilize families, over-police communities, undereducate schools, poison neighborhoods, and then turn around and have the fucking audacity to say, why are they so angry? What the fuck do you mean, why are they so angry? That question alone is disrespectful as hell, because anger does not come out of nowhere. Intensity does not come out of nowhere. Pain does not come out of nowhere. What you are seeing is not aggression. You are seeing unprocessed grief. You're seeing suppressed rage. You are seeing pain that never had a safe place to land. And the psychological truth is that when trauma does not get expressed, it does not disappear. It compresses, it hardens, it builds pressure. So when it finally comes out, it does not come out softly, ladies and gentlemen. That is exactly how trauma works. That is not a character flaw. Especially trauma that was never acknowledged, never protected, never held, never understood, never listened to, never given the safe space to express itself healthily, and never healed. never given consistent access to the tools that help regulate emotions in healthy ways. And it's not because they didn't want them, it's because those tools were intentionally withheld. Stable environments, generational safety, mental health resources, space to be vulnerable without punishment, rooms to fall apart without being labeled dangerous or too much or aggressive, or all these negative, false, racist narratives. When you grow up in chaos and violence and instability and poverty and surveillance and constant threat, your nervous system adapts to survive, not to be gentle. So yes, emotions come out louder, reactions come out stronger, and yes, pain comes out sharper. And that's not because black people are broken, it's because they have been forced to be strong in conditions that would break most people. And you know what I'm noticing? A lot of folks, especially non-black folks, romanticize the fuck out of black culture, but reject black pain. They love the music, they love the slang, they love the style, they love the steez, they love the rhythm, they love the energy. But the moment the source of that culture expresses the hurt that created it, now it's too much, now it's negative, now it's playing the victim. That is not appreciation, that is consumption. And to the non-black people watching this, especially the ones who will say, well, I didn't do anything. Understand this, acknowledging pain is not the same as blaming you personally, man. But denying it, minimizing it, dismissing it, rejecting it, gaslighting it, explaining it away, minimizing it, that's how the wound stays open. Black people are not asking for fucking pity. They're not asking for special treatment. They're not asking for handouts. They're not asking to be worshipped. They're not asking you to carry guilt that is not yours. They are asking to be believed. They are asking to be listened to. They are asking for their pain to stop being debated like it's a fucking theory instead of a lived reality. They are asking for space to feel without being punished for it. And I want to say this clearly without sugarcoating it. Telling traumatized people to calm down without changing the conditions that traumatize them is violence in disguise. How do I know this and I'm not black? Because I grew up in chaos. I grew up around abuse, violence, fear, betrayal, bullying, pain, because I carried anger in my body for years before I even knew what it was, before I was even able to identify it. This level of empathy and being able to put myself in other people's shoes did not come from happiness. It came from surviving shit that rewired my nervous system. So when I look at black pain, I don't see stereotypes. I see survival responses. I see bodies that learned early that the world was not safe. I see emotions that were never given room to breathe. I see generations of people who had to keep going even when stopping would have meant death. And look, the solution is not shaming black people for how their pain shows up. The solution is creating environments and safe spaces where pain doesn't have to scream to be heard. The solution is resources, education, mental health care, reinvesting in impoverished areas, economic stability, community safety that does not rely on fear and force, spaces, safe spaces where vulnerability is not punished. Healing does not happen by demanding silence. Healing happens when people are finally allowed to be honest without being labeled monsters. And if we keep refusing to acknowledge this, if we keep pretending this is about attitude instead of trauma, we are not moving forward towards unity. We're just rehearsing the same cycle with different excuses.
Is the price of truth. And black people have been paying that price for centuries while everybody else gets to look away, minimize, debate, deny, deflect, reject, or get defensive. And yeah, I already know what some of y'all are thinking. Why is he speaking on this? Why does he care so much? This isn't his place. I'll get to that. To all you ignorant, bigoted, out of touch, and racist humans, bro, I got a few words for y'all. Leave black people the fuck alone. Leave black people the fuck alone. Literally. You know what the fuck black people want? And I'm saying this as somebody who has listened to my friends and people that I care about in my personal life who have opened up to me about this shit. All they want, literally, all they want is to be listened to, understood, acknowledged with open ears, an open mind, and awareness for their history, pain, culture, trauma, struggles, mistreatment, hurt, injustices, and treated fairly and done justice for all the psychological, emotional, historical, spiritual, mental, physical, and internal damage, pain, trauma, hurt, abuse, rape, harvesting, feasting that they've endured for centuries, genetically, ancestrally, and generationally, and continue to endure to this day. Not minimized, denied, dismissed, or rejected. And then, on top of that, to be left the fuck alone. That's it! Leave them the fuck alone! They've been telling y'all this shit for centuries. Why the fuck does it have to take somebody outside of their group to say something for this shit to be taken seriously when they've been saying this shit for centuries? It doesn't make any goddamn sense. And it shouldn't be this way. Now, leaving them alone does not mean excluding them from shit. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying stop targeting them and oppressing them and hurting them and blaming them for the stupidest shit. Leave them the fuck alone. Acknowledge the pain, do something about it in the present moment to enforce change, and keep it pushing. Literally. They're tired, man. They're exhausted from being misunderstood, from being demonized in the media. They're tired, man. They're tired. They're exhausted. Black people do not want to be dissected, stereotyped, infantilized, criminalized, fetishized, targeted, or turned into talking points every election cycle. They don't want performative allyship, hashtags with no fucking follow through, or sympathy that disappears the second accountability is required. They want what they've been asking for the entire time: to be heard without being argued to be believed without being interrogated, to be treated fairly without having to prove their humanity, to live without being targeted, to exist without being blamed for systems they did not build. And somehow that gets twisted into something radical. And the reason this keeps going is not because black people have not explained themselves well enough. It's because too many people benefit, consciously or unconsciously, from not listening. Silence protects comfort, denial protects power, minimization protects the status quo.
Black people commit a majority of the crime. It's in the statistics. People say this dumbass shit with confidence and with smugness, like numbers exist in a vacuum. Like statistics just fell out of the sky with no history, no context, and no hand shaping them. Why does that crime exist in the first place? You don't get to point at an outcome and ignore the conditions that produced it. If you want to talk about crime, buddy, you have to talk about environment, you have to talk about access, you have to talk about policy, you have to talk about systemic failure and systemic intentions. You have to talk about who had options and who never did. Crime does not grow out of skin color. Crime grows where opportunity is starved. So if you want to say that black people commit a majority of the crimes, then what was the ethnicity of the people on Epstein's island? Oh wait, what were the ethnicities of most of those people fucking kids? I know some people are gonna say, what, Jay-Z, Pusha T? Shut the fuck up. I'm talking about the majority of people there. Oh, okay. Like I said, man, you don't get generations of redlining, black wealth, segregation, stolen land, lynching, rape, murder, stolen labor, stolen dignity, stolen memory, and then act shocked when the consequences show up in numbers you don't like. Entire neighborhoods were designed to fail. Not accidentally, not naturally, intentionally. Schools were underfunded, jobs moved out, banks refusing loans, homes devalued on purpose, police over-patrolling instead of protecting, prisons waiting like a conveyor belt, and then the same fucking system turns around and has the fucking stupid-ass audacity to say, see, look at the crime. No, that's a setup. That is not the truth. That is a fucking setup right then and there. People love statistics when they absolve them of empathy. They hate history when it explains those statistics. And I'm gonna be real, crime is not exclusive to black communities. White-collar crime steals far more money, far more innocence, far more lives, and destroys far more lives and destabilizes entire communities, but it does not get framed the same way because it wears suits instead of hoodies and ski masks. Nobody calls poverty a crime factory when it hits white communities. Nobody calls addiction a moral failure when it looks like them. Nobody calls desperation culture when it benefits them. And no, this is not about excusing crime. This is about understanding cause instead of worshiping consequence. Because if you actually cared about reducing crime, you would not be obsessed with blaming black people. You would be obsessed with fixing the conditions that make crime a rational survival response. You would talk about education that is not designed to warehouse kids. You would talk about economic mobility that is not blocked by zip code. You would talk about mental health support that does not require money people don't have. You would talk about community investment instead of constant punishment, but that would require admitting the system failed, and more importantly, that it failed on purpose. So when people say, it's just statistics, what they're really saying is, I don't want to look at what created those numbers. Because once you do, you can't unsee it. And once you see it, you're responsible. That's the part people are running from. And before anybody twists this into making excuses, let me be clear. Understanding the root is not the same as removing accountability. People are still responsible for their actions. I'm sorry, it's true. But systems are responsible for the conditions they create. Two things can be true at the same time. Accountability without context becomes cruelty. Context without accountability becomes chaos. Real change lives in the uncomfortable middle, where we stop lying about why things look the way they do and actually fix what we broke. Black people commit a majority of the crime. It's in the statistics. People say...
Woo! I want to thank you for that video, because that's very important that we deal with this trauma. And I'm going to do a few videos and maybe a series dealing with the effects and the implementation of trauma on our bodies. And basically, these are really specifically geared for African Americans, ADOS, foundational Black American, coloreds, whatever we call it ourselves, because I don't want to leave nobody out. But I'd rather say American descendants of slavery are who I'm more specifically gearing these things towards. Because what has to happen now with the dominant society hiring white supremacists and fucking with our minds and traumas even more. It's real important that we understand how much trauma they done put on us, how much trauma that we continue to act out about, because it all has its roots in the trauma that they put upon us. Okay? Doesn't mean I'm absolving your responsibility for the actions that you commit, but what I am saying is the trauma that we are up under and facing, it was inflicted upon us by people who are utterly insane. And I think it's real important that we deal with that and don't call it nothing else but that. So I just want to talk about the trauma of what has happened to us, starting all the way back from being here and then having someone take over where we live, which is equivalent to me coming into your house, taking your shit, pushing you out, and just taking over. And to have to deal with a group of people who think that's normal and how that evolved to the way they treat us today. These things need to be addressed so we can heal, family. Because at some point, in my opinion, we got to combat, okay, this energy that really wants us to fizzle out from abuse, and we're not gonna let it. Okay, so I just want your attention. Anybody that feel like they have been affected by trauma, you're welcome to listen, welcome to be a part of it. But specifically, my people, I wish you participate in this because it's real important, and it's what I've been studying. Oh boy, for the last 8 years, is the effects of trauma. So with that being said, if you like what you hear, please like, subscribe, and share. And I will see you in the next video.